Welcome. Hello, everyone. So glad to have you at Prowess Goes Live. We come to you every Wednesday, same time, same place, to help you upskill on your online business manager journey. And I'm very excited to talk to our guests with an S today, because it's not what we typically talk about here at Prowess Project. A lot of the times it is the brass tacks of starting a business or brass tacks of operations, but there's so many ways, especially as women, that we can go about using our own natural abilities to guide the way that we think and lead. And so that's why I am thrilled about the guests today. Absolutely thrilled. All right, y'all. So as always, we're going to have a starter question. Put into chat, if you had one superpower, what would it be? One superpower, what would it be? Being invisible? Yep. Love it. Going back in time. That was, yeah. Teleportation. Love it. Mine is the same. Like, I used to be, I want to fly. Teleport. We got a lot of teleporters here. Mine used to be I wanted to fly, and then realized I am definitely afraid of heights. So that's not going to work out well for me. But then I realized, do I really want to fly, or do I just want to be in multiple places as quickly as possible on to the next? So that was my whole thought process in this hypothetical question. Lori, to make everyone see their own superpower. Oh my gosh, that is a good one. Optimizing, Joanna, that's a fantastic one. Y'all, these are great. The power to heal. For the moms of toddlers out there, if you watch Encanto, yes, I feel this. The mom on there, so good. Wish I could do that. All right, y'all. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you everyone for being here today. I'm Ashley Connell, CEO and founder of Prowess Project. What do we do at Prowess? We help women, mainly who are caregivers or career pivoters, become online business managers. And an online business manager is a cross between a COO and a virtual assistant with a dash of digital marketing. That's how we typically describe what they are. So as they go through our journey, we're gathering data points so that we can match them up with their ideal clients. And with that, we are dedicated to help women become the OBMs that they desperately want to be, because they know that they can make the impact that they have deep inside. And so one of the ways that we want to help you become that is bringing you guests and experts and different ways to think about business, life, your career, hardships, your journeys, etc., every single week. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce to you Megan Camille, who is our guest on our show today, who is a intuitive business consultant and psychic. And let me just tell you, when I told Leah Steinkirk who was going to come on today, her eyes went like this. She was so excited. I could barely even get like the words out of my mouth of who was going to be on the guest, and she was pumped. So with that, Megan, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, girl, you have no idea. This has been a very long time coming. And everyone who is in the audience, we have another special guest for you. I'm also going to bring up Megan's OBM, Tori, who quite frankly has been wonderful, even working with Megan for me, because she has kept me on my A game on making sure that this is planned, all I's dotted, T's crossed. So real quick, I just want to bring up Tori just to say hello.
Hi.
So wonderful. Okay. Oh, good. So real quickly, what I would love to hear from both of you is, Megan, can you give us an overview of your life and how you got to where you are today? And then Tori, I'd love to take it from you and like how your journey was, and then how did you two meet and start working together?
Yeah. Well, I've been a serial entrepreneur for over a decade now. So I've built 4 businesses up to multiple 6 and 7 figures in the last 10 years. Such a passion for me. And eventually I was like, I'm really onto something here. I'm cranking out businesses and making money in a short amount of time. What am I doing that's different than those who spend 2 or 3 or 4 years building a single business up? And what it was using my intuition. I've been psychic since a little girl. And so I started taking that and really breaking it down into a process. And so I love pairing business strategy and systems with an intuitive approach, letting our intuition guide the way in business and money. And so that's what I do now is I support my clients in launching their business to multiple 6 and 7 figures, following their innate knowing. And about going on 4 years ago, brought Tori on as an executive assistant, and she has been here through it all at Megan Camille Enterprises, building this into a 7-figure business.
I don't even know where to begin. Like, this is so exciting. Let's pause there. Tori, I'd love to hear from your perspective how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I initially started working as an executive assistant in the corporate world and found that I was feeling really drained and just wanted to move out of it and be in something that was more in a spiritual based practice. And so that was actually, I said a prayer. It's kind of a quick story, but I said a prayer, and literally that same day, the job posting for Megan popped up, and sent in my resume. And the first call that she had with me, it was like she was talking to me like I already had the job. So I was like, okay, I think I got it. And then didn't hear from her for a few days, and then got the call that, I want to hire you. And literally started on January 11th. So on 111 for all the spiritual gurus. It was literally like a brand new start, and I've been with her ever since. So.
Oh my gosh, y'all, this is so exciting. Oh my gosh. I know we only have 45 minutes. Look, I'm getting giddy. So first question that immediately came to me, Megan, I'm curious. You said you have been psychic since you were a little girl.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What was that like? What feelings were you getting? How did you know?
Well, I guess I didn't know then. Unfortunately, it wasn't the most pleasant of experiences, because thankfully I was paired with a family that was wildly supportive and didn't just hospitalize me or medicate me or, something along those lines. But in general, it was a little scary to be aware of surroundings that other people could not see, could not hear. So my childhood was actually a little challenging in that sense of I was afraid a lot. I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid to sleep. I was definitely high maintenance in learning how to cope with being an open channel. And eventually, that I was able to refine that. I was able to refine that muscle. We all have intuition. We're all psychic. I just came in and was already working the muscle right away. So it was a challenge, but it really has had such a beautiful payoff.
Well, so say more. What does it mean to, I know, and I love that you said that we're all psychic, because you're right. It's whether or not we listen to it, whether or not we flex that muscle. What does it mean for you? Like, how are you channeling it and breaking it down and using it to your benefit?
Yeah, well, when I'm tuned in, connected to the quantum grid, which is just where all of source and information lives, right? We're always connected, and I'm just aware that I'm connected. And it really started when I was 15. My mother, who was also an entrepreneur, she supported women. She was a women's empowerment coach, and she would bring me in. She just so happened to work with those women who were, C-suite executives or entrepreneurs. And so she would bring me in as kind of like a little bonus to their in-person retreat days. And I would sit around and do readings, having no idea that that was like a breadcrumb of the future, right? So since 15, I've been reading business, money, how we shift the quantum grid, how we move in timelines, how we align with our highest timeline, how we call in a business that we know our business spirit versus thinking our business is ours or our baby or something like that, that we're collaborating with the business. And so when I tune in, I just get information around what the best step is, which does not always align with logic. Maybe very little does it align with logic, and support people in being able to trust themselves and their intuition in taking those steps, even when it doesn't make sense. So it comes through as very clear, specific steps.
What a gift. Because when I think about this, and granted, I haven't flexed the muscle like I want to someday, is I assumed what you were going to tell me was it was less practical, less like, hey, channeling, go do this, 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 and this. I thought it was going to be more of, this is the end that I see them. Now, how do we get there? So it's more of a step-by-step.
Yeah, it's much more of a step-by-step. Now, maybe if someone was brand new, then they're really just feeling the frequency of that end result. But we can have guidance on every single step, right? On every single step, like what strategy is best for me? What sort of messaging aligns with my ideal client? Who is my ideal client? Those sorts of things are already available, right? Like it's already happening. And so we just tap into the business at its peak and extract the information and apply it today.
This is incredible. Like my mind is exploding. So Tori, being that you are the OBM, you are nuts and bolts in ops and logic, really. How do you marry both? The hey, this is what I'm feeling. There may not be logic or data to it, but this is what I know to be true intuition.
Yeah, so I feel that the best thing that's helped me with that is just being present. It's being fully present, and it's recognizing, it's being in tune with my own intuition as well, because there are plenty of times where that initiative needs to be taken, where, maybe Megan's in a session and I'm like, okay, yes, I can take this initiative, but it's always being connected into that kind of, I really am balancing the two at all times, like the analytical mind and then my intuition, but it's knowing when to pause and then knowing when to take initiative. So it's really just continuously being really connected to myself and present. And there's been plenty of times where maybe if I get overwhelmed, where I know, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I need to take a minute, like things are feeling too intense, as they can be with being in the operations, I'll take a minute, recenter into myself, come back, and then I'll know how to take the next best step based on just being fully present.
Wow. It's amazing. And I just love that you both are talking about this, because we don't see it in the entrepreneurial space enough. We don't. It's always, how many cold calls did you make today? What's your close rate? What's your close rate? And after speaking to a lot of women, that feels out of alignment. And so I just love that you guys are thinking about it differently. And so I want to say, everyone who is in the chat or watching this is your time to ask questions. So I have a couple that I want to first get through, and then just keep on putting them in here, and we will absolutely get to them. So question for both of you. I'm going to start first with Megan, though. How would an OBM know that they are working with an intuitive leader? And if they are, what are some do's and don'ts on working with them?
Well, I think you would know, because they're probably obvious with it, right? You can actually, I noticed that those who are really intuitive may not have quite as much of an A-type personality, right? So definitely a visionary, clear on the exact steps to take, and I don't know how to do it, right? Like, I don't know how to put this in a document. I don't know how to make this an SOP. I don't know how to take it from the vision and then make like a hard, tangible thing with it, right?
Yeah.
So what I would say is really supportive is an initiative, which Tori talked about. Regulation, nervous system regulation. Like, we're a huge proponent. Like, I'm going to step away. I'm going to go do some breath work. I'm going to shake it out. I'm going to center, and I'm going to come back in my true self versus my scattered or scared self. And conscious communication, right? I mean, Tori and I are very open with our communication. We're explicit in what we require, what we desire and require, and working together. I do my best to, and hopefully I do well at it, is that we're two minds coming together as opposed to hierarchical, right? And a lot of what you talked about, Ashley, is like this hierarchical, but also the like, how many calls did you close, and how many outbounds have you done? It's very logic and it's very masculine, but business is actually all relational. It's all, sales is relational, close rates is even relational, how you work within your culture and your team is relational. And so, you know, with someone who's intuitive, highly sensitive, conscious communication as close to the horizon as possible, right? Hey, if there's a breakdown, let's talk about it right now, not in next week's meeting. If there's a breakdown, tell me today, find out tomorrow, right? Because there's a ultra sensitivity to it. If I don't logically know what's happening, I can still feel a clunkiness and offness. And Tori can be like, I think it might be this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so there are so many questions. Okay, Tori, tell me your perspective, like in working with an intuitive leader. And I know that you also are an intuitive leader too.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I think Megan nailed it, especially with the communication. I think that that's one of the biggest proponents of the whole thing. And it's the fact that there's a level of depth that comes with working with an intuitive leader where you don't get that with, I think, people who are not as in tune with their intuition. So kind of what she was saying where, I feel the clunkiness. So if something is kind of off, even with you, it will go into what you're doing. And sometimes that's how I can tell where if certain things are falling short, I sometimes pause and ask myself like, okay, am I falling short somewhere for myself? And that's kind of how I'll know to, either take a step back or know how to do things. And, we're both very in tune. And so, and she knows if something's kind of like off with me, I'll know if something's a little off. And it's always like the emotional and the actual nervous system is always playing a part in that. And so that's part of why the communication, I think, is the key to all of it more than anything. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. So 2 questions are coming up. First, when you say conscious communication, can you give me an example of conscious communication versus not?
Yeah. Well, and because I really do my best to make this a part of my life within work, within family, I'm trying to think of how I might be if I'm not consciously communicating, which would be very like directed, like go do this, go do that, go do this, versus what would support me here is XYZ. My intention for this task is to look like this. Is there a way that I can help you in making sure that that happens? If there is a breakdown, safety, and like we're allowed to have breakdowns, we're allowed to have human error, right? I know that has been a big one for me and Tori, and getting to love each other unconditionally, even when things aren't just right. That my commitment to her, and I believe her commitment to me, is beyond the job. It is human to human, heart to heart, and a lot of communication. So Tori, my experience in this is it didn't work over here. What can we do so that it looks like this next time? Would be an example of conscious communication. Why did you do it that way? That really sucks. It didn't work. Could you do it differently next time? Not conscious.
Yeah. That's so good. So, Tori, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Um, Oftentimes when visionaries are coming to Prowess Project looking for an online business manager, what they are seeking is someone who is going to help them basically bring data to their business, right? Or order, structure, data, ops, all of those different things. So oftentimes those leading indicators are pretty masculine, like how many cold calls did you have? How many, like, what is that pipeline? How did we get like further along the pipeline closer to close? How, with an intuitive leader, do you think differently about that? Because sometimes that does feel very masculine. And what leading indicators do you use instead?
So I'd say that it's creating structure from the flow. So rather than going based off of a structure that's very, this is how it needs to be, it's very rigid, I go based on how it actually flows well. So I'm thinking in terms of how I organize all of our things on the back end, all of our operations on the back end. It's structured in a way that you can flow easily into it. So you're again, it's combining the two analytical and the intuition of creating the structure, but making it to where it makes sense. Cause I mean, have you ever been into a program where you're like, this doesn't make sense? Like, why is this there? Or why is that there? But it in terms of like the actual, like program structure, you're like, okay, I can see why they did that, but it's not intuitive to actually like move through the steps this way. So it's learning how to create structure based on moving through the steps that makes sense in a flow state.
And something that's coming to me, because actually, Ashley, I think you've mentioned it a couple times, is like the outbound calls, that calling sort of thing. Something that I think would be fabulous for any OBM to know is the difference between outbound and cold and inbound and warm. Because if you can go to a CEO, someone who's looking for that, and say, there's actually a better way than cold calling and outbound, and it's called organic marketing and inbound, and how to do that, that is going to relieve any CEO who might not know that. Surprisingly, there are a lot of CEOs who don't know the difference, or that there's another option. And so we bring all of it in.
And can you say more about that? When you say you bring all of it in, what do you mean by that?
So organic marketing and magnetic marketing. So it's all inbound. Everyone comes to us versus, let's say, DMs or cold calling or collecting emails, like going out and finding the emails. There's organic marketing beyond paid ads, because if you're not making at least $500,000 a year, probably not ready for paid ads to really work for you. And so there is ways in which you can have an organic marketing campaign so that people come to you, and you're building that audience that will then support you in client acquisition, will fill your calendar with new clients. That isn't outbound, because I don't want any of my team in that energy of urgency and out and chasing. That is the old school paradigm, and it's masculine, which we love masculine, but we use masculine in our organization and our structure, not in our client acquisition.
So good. So how do you start? Like, it makes a lot of sense to me for the magnetic attraction of magnetic marketing. Once you're at $100, $200, $300, $500,000, but when you're just starting and running your business as an OBM, one of the questions that I saw on here was how to find an intuitive leader. So if an OBM does want an intuitive leader, how does she attract it magnetically?
So, well, one, there's the energetics. So I'd love for Tori to just put out what for her worked really well for that, because I interviewed probably 7 people, and she was right smack in the middle of all the people I interviewed. And I knew before interviewing anyone else, she was it, right? It was that intuitive knowing. And some of those qualities were self-directed. grounded and confident, like she wasn't afraid of the tasks coming up. And there was capacity. So she doesn't go into overwhelm very quickly, right? It takes quite a while to get there. So she had a big capacity to hold a lot of different moving pieces. As far as versus outbound and inbound, well, something like you're doing right here could create inbound. It is a longer term, so it wouldn't be my first recommendation. It would instead be something more along for someone who started. I know you're not just starting, but for someone who's going like, how do I do this from ground zero? Something around joint ventures and building your own email list, even as an OBM, right? And that can be part of your job research, right? Like that could be a part of your job search, is creating your own list of possible CEOs by coming with answers to their questions, not as a business consultant, but as the back end, the stuff that I don't like to look at, the operations, the organizations.
So good. I'm curious your perspective on that, Tori. Like, when you were in that interview, did you know that you were putting out that you had the capacity and a lot of tolerance before you get overwhelmed? Did you know you were putting that out?
Well, I knew that I could handle a lot because I had been in an executive assistant position prior that was inside of an office, which is very different from this dynamic. But I mean, it's kind of interesting because I tuned into how I wanted to feel in an atmosphere of who I was working with. And I feel like that's part of what Megan may have felt too, where I was like, this is exactly what I want. I knew how I wanted to feel. I knew what I needed. And I got really clear with that. And that was the prayer and energy that I put out. And so when we first talked and she was talking to me like I already had it, I was like, oh, I've got this. Like, I've got this locked in. So I feel like I knew, but it was, in terms of the details, I think that's just who I am. And so that was also where she was feeling into. So, yeah.
I want to repeat something that you said that I think is just so fantastic. You went in knowing the feeling that you wanted to feel while working at that job. That right there, like underscore. I love that you said that. In Prowess, we do a lot of dream casting, and a lot of it is like, hey, let's taste the details, let's see all the details and feel them and all of those things. But what is the feeling that you're having right now? Like, let's get attached to that feeling. And so I just love that you said that. Oh, wonderful. So Megan, I'm curious about, like, I've asked so many questions about how the two of you work and how you think about business, but I want to understand more about what you deliver to your clients, because I'm thinking this from two perspectives. Some of the OBMs in our community may be like, oh my gosh, this is me. How do I learn how to do this? Or they may be thinking, oh my gosh, this is missing for my CEOs that I'm working with. They need to tap into this. So what kind of transformations do you get your clients from this place to this place?
Yeah, well, for those who are just starting out and launching their own business, the goal is always 500K in 3 hours a day. I work part-time as a CEO, and I support all my clients in adjusting to that sort of work-life harmony. Now, if they are already in business, then we really want to take them into the 7-figure realm. Obviously, this comes with a single simple strategy, as well as knowing how to follow your intuition to make these bigger decisions. Now, intuition is just so much more effective than logic. It's never wrong, right? Logic is based on the past. It's telling us how to be safe. And as an entrepreneur, we don't play within safety. We play within possibility and potentiality. OBMs are a beautiful mixture of entrepreneur and employee. They're right in the middle. They're called intrapreneurs. And every successful business needs an entrepreneur or an online business manager if you're online, because they're self-directed. They are visionaries themselves, but sometimes there's two components that don't turn on an entrepreneur, which is risk and the desire to make sure that everyone underneath them is fully supported with a job, right? So as someone who is considering being an entrepreneur, you don't actually have the privilege of being risk adverse. Everything you do is a risk, right? You always have the risk of not being able to support the team, right? Some people can't withstand that kind of pressure. And if you like being self-directed and all of that, great. Entrepreneurship is your thing. And you don't want to take the risk and necessarily have the responsibility outside of business hours. An entrepreneur likes the excitement, right? Is willing to play with risk, is willing to hold the responsibility of making sure that an entire team has a job for an extensive amount of time, right? And so that is some of my clients who are coming in, moving into 500K in 3 hours a day. We are cultivating the inner entrepreneur and moving out of the employee mindset that requires certainty and safety. So yeah, it's really cultivating that inner CEO. Whereas if you're already in business, then we're fine-tuning your inner leadership. You've already made multiple 6 figures. Of course, you can make 7 figures. Typically, the gap there is no longer strategy, it's inner leadership.
Wow. I never thought about that, because you always hear what got you here won't get you there. And again, I'm coming from a very masculine way of thinking about business, where I'm like, oh, the tactics are different. Oh, the strategy is different. But what I just heard you say is, no, Ashley, to get to there, you need to change. Your energetics need to change. And I mean, change in a good way. What would elevate? And I love the way that you put that. That was really, really, really fantastic. I love it. And so you have basically two different offers for people. It would be, hey, if you're under 500, let's get clear on this simple strategy, keep doing this. And then if you're above it, hey, let's move you into this level. Is that how it typically works?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I gotta ask, in 3 hours a day, how do you do that?
Oh, well, intuitively. This is the question I get a lot. And it's been some of my most favorite content, because people have even commented like, I don't believe this. I know a lot of 7-figure business owners and they're working all the time. And there are seasons, right? There are seasons in which I work a little more, and there are seasons that I don't. But in general, last year I took 4 months off at retreats. I take Fridays off. So Friday through Sundays are off. And what I'm doing is I'm honing in on only that which moves the needle. I now have a team as well, right? So Amanda's over here doing this, Tori's over here doing that, Sonia's over there doing that. And so some of that is spread out. Some of the tasks are spread out. However, I started bringing team on if I noticed I was working more than 3 hours a day. That's how I knew it was time for a new team member. What really made the shift to 3 hours a day was the pandemic, where all of a sudden I had 2 kids that I got to have at home as an independent mother. I did not have support. I was a single mom and I was running a business, and now I had 2 kids that were very young. They were like 4 and 5. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? And I realized, oh, this needs to be condensed into a shorter amount of time. And that's where I got 3 hours a day. And then years later, so about 3 years ago now, a little less than that, or 3.5 years ago, I became pregnant with twins. And so I didn't have all that much energy, right? And when I had those babies, I'm like, wait, now we have 5 children, 2 newborns, and I'm running 2 businesses. How can I possibly do this? How can I possibly do it? And the answer was in less time. that's how I have to do it. It has to be in less time. And so being very clear on only working on something that's making money. That's why social media is not a business plan, because that requires so much more time and so little ROI. And time management, right? Knowing how to manage my time and my mind, that my humanness does not get to run the show. She does not get to decide that we don't feel like it. She doesn't decide that we're an imposter. I support her and integrate that humanness, but I'm only taking action on the things that will move the needle. And then I was bringing on team.
I want to come through this screen and hug you because I love everything that you just said.
Virtual hug.
I have virtual hug. Leah, me too. I have a 2-year-old and I think about it all the time. I'm like, I started Prowess to work on my time and have more flexibility for her. And sometimes that isn't working. And I always thought that it was seasons, but now that you said that, it just very clearly pointed out that I am the person who is filling in busy work during those times. It's not necessarily what needs to happen. It's not necessarily what's moving the needle. And I kind of apologize for everyone who's listening to, because I am having this big aha moment that I love bringing on team. And I like, one of my favorite things to do is getting people excited. And so maybe that is the answer, just bringing on more team, exactly what you just did. And everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Fulfilled.
Yeah. It's a balance of bringing on team before you need them, right? And that's why I go, wait, if I'm working 4 hours a day, 4 days a week, something is letting me know that I'm moving outside of my genius zone, which is consulting and delegating and being a visionary. And so that's when we bring something in. And I have 5 kids, so I totally understand. One of the first positions was house manager, nanny, someone who did the laundry, cooked the food. I'm like, I don't love doing that. I want to be done with my workday and only spend time with my babies, right? So being able to make that decision and to hire really requires someone as competent as Tori, as competent OBMs for the CEO to go, oh yeah, this is possible.
Could not agree more. The competency of an online business manager is worth its weight in gold and then some. I say that to people all the time. And I have the great privilege. We have brought on 2 new people to our team, Val and Natalie. And it's been such a wonderful experience because both of them are experts. So they're coming to me with, hey, Ashley, this is what we should go do. Not the other way around where I was trying to tell them like, hey, go do I don't know. It's not my zone of genius. And so I love that you're saying, and I love to, and this is going to be a huge sticking point for me, is hire before you need to. Hire before you need to. Oh, Joanna, great. Oh, single mom of a 5-year-old girl. Yes. Oh, amazing. Amazing. You got this, girlfriend. You got it. Question. Megan, when you're working with business owners who aren't using their intuition, what are a couple of examples of how you could get them to be more intuitive? Great question.
Yeah. One is to support them in knowing just the basics, yes or no, right? Like, is this aligned? Does this fit for where we're going with our vision? Knowing the yes feeling and vibration and knowing the no feeling and vibration is really all you need. It's really all you need. Now, here's the thing. Any business owner is using their intuition, right? When we have a vision that comes in and a desire to go make that vision happen, that is not ours. Humans aren't all that creative. It's the life force that's pouring through us that is creative, right? So they actually were tapped in to an intuitive inkling to move forward with this business. Now, to bring in the intuition and decision making, I start with the simple yes or no. Simple yes or no. And most people realize after working with me, oh, I get intuition all the time. I just don't follow it. And those are two different things. People are always like, I wish I could just hear my intuition. And really their gap is not following their intuition. They get the intuition and then they go, no, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound safe. That doesn't seem logical. Let's do this other thing. And so supporting people and knowing, hey, it's okay to listen to your intuition. Eventually you're going to have so much proof that it provides even better.
Wow. I love how simple you made that. And it's such a great starting point of just like, hey, yes or no, which feels, because you're right. Immediately, you just don't always follow it. That is so true. We got a question for you, Tori. Could you share how many hours you work? And I'm more curious, like, how do you think about work? Is it an hour thing? Is it a day thing? Is it just a project? Like, how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I definitely think more in project based. And, Megan does a really good job at if there's certain things that she's like, these are our main priorities. We always have top priority work and then kind of like lower priority of like top priority is this needs to get done this week and then lower priority over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so constantly in that mindset of managing my time that way, I work the most Tuesdays through Thursdays. I'm always on around 9 a.m. and I can't even say like exact hours because I know there are many times where I'm flowing in where I'm doing a project and then I'll kind of flow out and, take time to myself and then flow back in. But I'm available most of the day and then just working through projects on that way or in that way.
We personally on my team, we do salary, not hourly. Now, depending upon who you're working with, this is really important because you could certainly be taken advantage of this way. However, so conscious communication is very, very, very important in this, right? Being able to express your desires and express your needs and sharing like this taking a little longer, or even a Tori, like it's time to bring on a team member. Another team member is always helpful for the CEO to know. However, I like salary because I want Tori to take the time off that she needs, right? Like she has worked from Hawaii. We have gone on retreats together. Her pay is not affected by any time that she wants to take off or if she is leaving for a couple of days or whatever that is. Her pay is her pay is her pay, even in a slow week, if there's 15 hours or a big week and there's 40 hours. And we also do bonuses, right? We do bonuses frequently. And while I think that is really amazing, she is really amazing, right? Like it's easy to be like, oh, let's take Friday off. Hey, go get a massage. Hey, let's call it a day early is so fun because Tori over delivers, right? Like she under promises and over delivers. I am not kidding. I can't necessarily think of like a sick day that you've taken in 4 years. I mean, you've taken some trips and that sort of thing, but not much stops Tori. So as long as you are paired with someone, I say make sure that you know what your needs are, what you require, and we do salary increases every 6 to 12 months.
And that's why I always say I start my day at a certain time, but in terms of the flow, I'm like, that depends, like what Megan just explained about the week. So, but yeah, I love it. So, and thank you.
I mean, yay for Tori. Everyone clap for Tori. You're kicking butt, girlfriend. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, I just looked at the clock and I know that we are over. Is there any final things that you want to leave everyone with? And then we will share where everyone can find you.
I mean, my final words would be to know how important the role of OBM is. Megan Camille Enterprises would not be a 7-figure enterprise without Tori. You are truly gifts to CEO, It doesn't happen on our own. It just doesn't, no matter how many people want to say, I did this on my own. I did not. I did it with Tori. So I highly recommend that you know your worth, and just go find someone that was ready for that sort of partnership.
Yeah. And to add to that, I would say if you are like me and you are an OBM looking for somebody, ensuring that you truly believe in what the person is doing. I mean, I believe in Megan wholeheartedly. I respect her. I love her. I just adore her in every way. And so that's why the job doesn't even really feel like a job. It just feels like I'm doing exactly what I love, and I'm working with somebody that I love. And so if there's any sense of or any part of you that when you're working with somebody, you're like, oh, I'm kind of just like going through the motions, or like, oh, I just need this paycheck, that's not the right person to be working with. So making sure that I'm with talking to Megan every single day for hours a day. Like that's a lot of energy that you're putting into a relationship with somebody. And so making sure that it's somebody that you enjoy being with, that will directly influence your personal life and everything outside of it. So
y'all, I can feel the appreciation that is both ways here. So this has truly been amazing. Thank you. I'm going to put all of the links for where you can find Megan and her team, and y'all, thank you both.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I am forever grateful. Thank you. And for everyone who is listening, this is all for you. I hope you really take away everything that Megan and Tori have talked about when we speak about compatibility, and how my goal is to help OBMs and CEOs connect, and where they both feel lucky. Like that is my goal. That is my goal with Prowess Project. And just seeing y'all two, it makes me even more excited about what we can go do with Prowess. And so thank you. And I will see everyone back here next week. We are talking all about email copy, funnels, how to make money through all of that. And you bet I am going to be talking more about magnetic marketing, because you are so right about that. And then lastly, we are having one of our free workshops. It is coming up on May 13th, and we have something extra this time, which is more of the magnetic aspect and intuition and energy around becoming an OBM and finding your ideal clients. So very excited to have all of you. See you next week.